a choice right now, between fear and love. It's just a rock.
Out of the dark night of ignorance and into the shining light of truth.
Expounding reality.
A population of citizens capable of critical thinking.
We don't see things as they are, we see them as we are.
There's a level of reality where everything dissolves into an ocean of energy.
We empower our experience by insisting on our authenticity.
That's very profound. Very.
Expanding reality.
Welcome to Expanding Reality. I am your host, Brandon Thomas. On this incredibly cool episode, Sharon Daphna and Gabe Lazar join me to talk about what is going on in the potentially satanic skies above us. Is it chemtrails? Are they spraying something, or is it something completely different? Now, they have a fantastic idea and a wonderful, wonderful organization, Chembow.com, and all the other ways to find them linked down in the show description. Now, join us for the afterthought for this particular conversation where we go into the confounding of cause and effect. And it's, of course, fascinating, guys. You're absolutely going to love it. Beautiful way to support your favorite show. But without any further ado, let's get to this incredibly cool conversation with Sharon Daphna and Gabe Lazar. Welcoming to the show, we have Sharon Daphna and Gabe Lazar. It's good to see you guys. How's everything?
Good. It's nice to see you too. Thanks so much for the invitation.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
I am so excited. You guys did join us for a hangout, which can be found down in the show description, as well as the afterthought for this conversation. So great way to support your favorite show, guys. Go check that out. Now, on there, I was so grateful to display because we have a mutual friend in Dawn Lester. She actually came into Texas and ended up, here, I'm going to hold it still for the camera. Audio only audience, check the video version. But anyway, we're going to share all the graphics and things like that. She came in town and we just had a fascinating conversation picking her up from Bandera, Texas. It's 4.5 hours away, so we had plenty of time to talk. And she came to the conclusion that she was gifted this piece of orgonite back here and said that I should have it. And she ended up giving me this and your card. And it changed things around here. We're really going to talk about this today, guys, because I'm very excited to get you on here, okay? Want to remind the listening audience all the ways to find them down in the show description. Now, Gabe, Sharon, just in your own words here, tell us a little bit about yourselves. Tell us how you got started in this, and we're just going to go for it here, guys.
Well, actually, Gabe got me started in the first place because years ago, we were very concerned about what we were seeing in the sky. We saw a lot of jet trails in the sky, a lot of pollution, what we perceived as heavy pollution. And I didn't know anything about this back in 2011 when Gabe first brought it up with me, and we were first together as a couple. And once he mentioned that this stuff wasn't normal, I'd only heard about it once before from my coffee guy at the farmer's market. He had said, oh, they're spraying us with chemtrails and it's a government plot. And I thought, well, I don't know about any of that. It looks just like what airplanes do. And then he said it to me. He says, oh, they're doing something up there to make us stupid, he said. And so I thought, well, I should look into this a little bit more. So I started looking into it a little bit more in 2011. And I didn't find any real information, to be honest. I looked all over the internet. I found a lot of what I learned later was disinfo. From Geoengineering Watch and these kinds of groups that tell you that we're being sprayed and there's nothing you could do about it and we're all going to die.
Yeah, write your government representative and complain to them, that kind of stuff.
So I didn't really know what any of that was other than it was something not normal. It was something not good. And so after Gabe brought it up with me, I started looking into it, but it took literally 2 whole years before we came to a solution to it, which was orgone energy. We learned that what was happening up there wasn't actually spraying of chemicals. It was actually an energetic warfare going on this earth. It was actually weather warfare and the war for our consciousness, all done through energy. So I know it might come as a great surprise to people who have seen all that stuff and looked at all the geoengineering type of narratives out there, but the alt media's explanation for it just isn't what it is. And after 10 years of research and field work with orgone energy and using the orgonite devices, we learned that everything up there can be completely cured energetically. So it's a very, very long story. We've come a long way in 10 years because we went from that total fear, and despair, like we're being sprayed with chemicals, there's nothing we can do. When we learned that even if it is chemicals, the orgonite gets rid of it. But it's probably not chemicals like they're telling us.
It's all energetic.
It's all energetic phenomenon going up there that's causing us to see it the way we're seeing it.
And when you learn about the solution and how easy it is and that anyone can utilize it, all that fear and hysteria just goes out the window.
Yeah. So in 2014, we made our first orgonites, and I was very skeptical because I had seen stuff about it online, and it looked like, just these little sculptures. Yeah. And I got mine too. I thought, well, how can this do anything, But I learned the science of it from the electrical engineer, Ken Rolla, and he explained how it actually can throw pollution out of the atmosphere, how it changes the energetic charge of the atmosphere, and as well, DeWin Gardner, who wrote a book called The Science of Rain, which he since edited and destroyed, actually. That's another story, but back in 2014, he wrote a book that explained the energy of the atmosphere. He barely even used the word chemtrail at all. I don't even know if it appeared maybe once in the book, if at all, because it's so unimportant when you learn the energy. So I learned from two people who are working in the science of it, of orgonomy, and that was the game changer for me. I thought it's worth a try, and we tried it. And sure enough, we made our first batch of these little small pyramids, these flat top pyramids, and we made a small batch of those. They were curing outside of our house, and as they were curing, all the haze in the sky just went away in a blue circle over our house for about a mile around. So we were starting to see it, and we thought, okay, there's something to this energetic stuff. And we went from there.
Yeah, then we just went with it. And again, we realized that what we're saying flies in the face of all of that alt media narrative about spraying and stuff. But the work that we've done for the last 10 years does prove that it works.
Yeah.
It's actually so on brand, guys. It's so on brand because we talk about, these levels of psyops and the ability for your consciousness to be hijacked, your energy, your attention, all of this. And whenever we look at something like, let's say the thing that happened a few years back, a lot of people will go to the bat thing and stop there, and then that's it. It's beyond the normal narrative, but it goes to the bat and then it stops. They won't investigate it any further. So when you look at things like this, and there's answers in the form of data and charts of barium, strontium, and aluminum, being in higher quality amounts in this snowfall and all this stuff, and these meteorologists looking at it, it's interesting to think that maybe that is what's occurring, but not in the way that we think it is. So it's fascinating, again, to take this sort of new approach to an old idea and sort of next level this thing, not get stuck on the first part of the psyop bit in the fear part of it. And it's interesting you guys say this because for, I don't know, a while now, I've been bouncing love off of them. I've been saying, well, good, it's good that you sprayed that up there because I'm just bouncing love off of it. So we've been sort of mentally alchemizing this for a while, but it's nice to now be able to physically, energetically interact with this in a very different way. It changes your relationship to what seems impossible for you to control flying above your head and being dumped on you, and all of these things. So tell me how you guys reframe this narrative. It's fascinating.
Well, what you said is really interesting that you were using love, because orgone energy is life force energy. It is the energy of love. It's the energy of life. So you were already intuitively using it against something that you knew was evil.
Nice.
As for these amounts of chemicals being found in the environment, we're being told they're falling on us by certain people, but in reality, they're coming from so many sources. We can't really determine. I mean, there's pesticides, there's industrial pollution. Everything in this world is so polluted. We can't really determine where they're coming from. And this narrative that they're falling on us is part of the disempowering narrative that says you can't do anything about it. When in fact, if you change the way you eat, drink, and live, and you can actually remove toxins from the body. So I know a lot of listeners who have been listening to that narrative for years, which has been out there a long time, long before we started using Orgonite. In fact, we were believers of that as well, until we disproved it. But, anybody who really believes that might think that I'm nuts with what I'm saying here, but there really is no proof that came from something in the sky. There's no proof. It's just there. So when you see that the orgone energy removes what's in the sky, that removes all the fear. So even if something was falling, you never have to worry about it again because this removes it from the sky completely.
Okay, so I have to, so many questions, guys, right? Yeah. Okay, what's the first one you think I'm going to ask? And you can go ahead and ask it and answer it.
I would I'm not exactly sure. People usually ask me,
What is orgonite?
Well, I mean, that was what I would ask, but most people focus on chemtrails. So that's why I'm not sure where you would go.
Okay, well then that's fascinating. I definitely have down here to speak with you about orgonite. We have plenty of time to do that. But since we're on the topic of snuffing out fear here or re-alchemizing our ideas, we have seen images of tanks on planes. We have seen planes flying above, what we think are planes rather, flying above with what seems to be things being sprayed out. They are altering the atmosphere, it seems, in a physical way from our perception to thin out, to block the sun, to all these things. So we're seeing physical things occur in the sky by something being sprayed out of what we think is a plane. What is that? What are they spraying? What is this?
I wanted to start this with the confounding of cause and effect. That's a huge tool that the parasitic world order uses against humans. It's the confounding of cause and effect. So what they'll usually do, and this happens, you can see it in every subject, but especially weather. They're going to tell you that one effect of something caused another effect, and they'll never tell you the cause. So what you're seeing up there is an effect of something, and they're attributing those trails as the cause of changing weather. My website explains the difference between cloud seeding and terraforming. And cloud seeding is something that people can do. They can take small aircraft and spray silver iodide into the atmosphere. If this is supposed to increase rainfall, it's actually an extremely ineffective method. Mainstream science acknowledges cloud seeding is ineffective in producing rain. It can only barely increase the amount of rain if it's already present. So that's the one thing people are mixing up here is cloud seeding and terraforming. And then we're also told that what's going on up there, when you see what's up there, that's not cloud seeding, that's beyond cloud seeding. But we're told that the lines in the sky themselves are the cause for weather problems, when in fact, the weather problems are causing the lines to stick. The energetic problems on Earth are the cause of the weather problems that are causing the lines to stick and creating the weather problems. So the lines are not the cause of the climate imbalance on Earth. They're a result of the energetic imbalance that causes the climate imbalance. So what they're doing is they're not telling us the root cause. They're just showing us a bunch of effects. So no,
it's a classic red herring. I don't know if you've heard that expression, but just to divert people away from the cause, because once people are aware of the cause, that leads directly to the solution, and people are no longer disempowered at that point.
And we can tell you the cause, and this is what they don't want you to know. The cause is cell towers. The cause is those cell phone towers that you see all over the entire continent, all over the world. That is the weather control grid. And they want us to think the lines in the sky are the weather control. In fact, without those cell towers on the ground, those lines would not persist. And those lines are simply a byproduct of what's going on the ground. And what we're learning now is those lines in the sky don't even have to do with weather at all. They are, in fact, something else entirely, which is a huge, huge topic that we've been delving into recently. But yeah, the weather control is all done from the ground. It's all done with cell towers, with that positively ionizing radiation that prevents rainfall and causes pollution to linger. And that's the very energy that causes the lines to linger.
Mm-hmm. Because we need negative ionization to have precipitation.
And clean air.
Yeah.
Whoa.
You see what they've done? They've mixed up cause and effect. And with weather, they do the same thing. They say this warm air here caused this storm here. Well, no, in fact, the orgone energy of the atmosphere caused both the change of temperature of air and the storm. Its energy is the root of everything.
There are two opposing energies. And Wilhelm Reich, the man who scientifically discovered orgone energy. I say scientifically because the ancient cultures knew about it for thousands of years. They called it chi or prana, whatever. But he created two terms. OR, which is short for orgone energy, and DOR, which was his abbreviation for deadly energy, positively ionizing radiation. And so we'll use OR and DOR interchangeably when we talk, just kind of in passing. So I wanted to just put those definitions out there because
it's the good and the bad. Yeah. It's basically like good and evil. It's
but
that
the
simple.
Positive is the bad one.
Yes, because and that's the confusing thing. Well, it's positive ions. So
just to make it more confusing for
well, I don't want it to be confusing, but orgone energy is life-giving, but negative ions are part of that. like a Himalayan salt lamp that produces negative ions, or you go to the beach and you feel good because of the negative ions. So orgone energy is negatively ionizing. Deadly radiation, the DOR, is positively ionizing. And those positive ions are what makes us feel agitated, unwell. It's actually the radiation that comes from cell phones, wireless devices.
Yeah, all wireless. Yeah. And of course, cell phone towers are a huge one.
Yeah.
It's scalable. Toxic positivity, does the same thing. So I get it. Yeah, it makes sense completely. It's fascinating the work that you guys are doing here. So tell me again, what are they spraying in the sky? Like what is coming out of or what are we perception managed to see? Because like you said, it is definitely a psychological thing. You look out there and you think, oh, they're spraying. You hear opinions of what they're spraying, and then you think that applies, and then you look up and you go, it does. Is there something being sprayed over me? And you feel. Some people can feel powerless. So empower folks.
It's the spraying thing is a big one for people to get past. In
because
the past,
it looks like spraying,
but it doesn't.
Totally
it doesn't look like spraying, except that it stops and starts. I think that's what it is. I think to me, it used to look like spraying, but now it doesn't because I know differently. So when you see like an air show with the old types of planes where they had contrails, something comes out the back, or, an old car that's not working too well, that's spewing out, smoke out the back. This is exhaust. We're looking at exhaust, and they've changed it to spraying so that we really feel scared, but it is some kind of exhaust. It is actually some kind of byproduct of their travel. It is not, in fact, a chemical being sprayed. And I know it looks that way, only in terms that it turns off and on. It looks like it turns off and on, but when you use the orgonite and observe it, and you watch the trail, if you have the orgonite out and you're watching the trail, you'll see that it doesn't, in fact, shut on and off, but the orgonite itself disrupts it to where it fades out and fades back in and fades out again. So it's not actually an on-off switch for a spray. I know they want us to think it's spraying, but it is actually some kind of byproduct of the travel. And the travel they're doing up there is DOR based. It's based in deadly energy. They have, for whatever they're doing up there in the upper atmosphere, they have a need for deadly radiation grid on Earth to allow that grid in the sky. The Earth grid of the towers is directly related to the sky grid. And we know that from neutralizing the Earth grid. When you neutralize the Earth grid with these, and we've put thousands of these into the environment at the cell towers throughout the US West, you see that they can't fly. So not only does it starts to break up the trails, but eventually they can't produce them. Where we're living in California, you almost never see what they call a chemtrail anymore at all. But we used to see them all the time. And the more it's getting gifted, the orgonite's getting gifted worldwide, the less people see the trails all the time. The airlines actually admitted recently that we will see an end to chemtrails in 2 to 5 years. We have a video about that on our channel. We pulled the news story and analyzed the video. The airlines are scrambling for an excuse as to why we don't see contrails anymore as much as we used to. And they're claiming to be doing something called contrail avoidance to not make them anymore.
Yeah, but
they don't want people to know that we're erasing them from the sky.
In reality, the atmosphere is becoming so negatively ionized that the trails, they can't be up there anymore.
It's becoming high in orgone energy.
Yeah.
And they can't do it. So what you're seeing is not a spraying, but it is some kind of exhaust, and it's some kind of byproduct of a type of travel based in deadly radiation. And I know people think we're just getting on airplanes up there and flying around the traditional way, but there's a whole other type of flight going on up there that we're not being told about what it actually is.
I like to think of them as litmus paper. You dip it in something that's acidic or basic, and you can tell, where it is on the pH scale. Well, the trails are an indicator of the energetic health of the atmosphere in any given location. If the trails are sticking and spreading out, the atmosphere is very DOR-ish, and air pollution is held in. It's lingering. It's not, the earth isn't able to clear it and cleanse it as it naturally does. But here in California, when it's very OR-ish atmosphere, the trails can't stick at all. Pollution it's the same amount of pollution as the previous day, but it it gets swept away.
Or they can't
Earth,
do it at all anymore. We've gotten to the point where they're not even up there. So it not only removes the pollution, but it seems to remove the planes. So that brings up a whole lot of other questions, you know. And
that's a show unto itself, that one.
That's what we've been studying lately is, well, where did the planes go? And now the airlines are coming up with some big excuses for why it's so different now.
So much, guys, so much.
Yeah, it's a big topic, and we've already gone so far into it. So you're finding out about this 10 years in to the discoveries we've made. So you're getting like the most updated version.
I love this. No, you get, and y'all are hooted. This is perfect. This is so cool. So again, guys, all the ways to find them, chembow.com, link down below. So with the images that we have seen, are they just simply images of tanks on planes with funnels and nozzles spraying out like modified crop dusters?
Yes.
They're just simply images. I wouldn't worry about the images on the internet. You know, there's all kinds of stuff that can be generated.
AI generated.
Or CGI. Or
psychologically. You wouldn't want your president walking around on a plane with all the pilots and masks and stuff to seem like you're the one that's scary and can do anything they want, right?
Well, it's total BS, you know, and they feed us a whole lot of BS all the time. I mean, the news stories, if you look at the headlines of the day, it's like more than half of them are fake. You know, I mean, there's a little truth in there, but you have to decipher it. I mostly look at weather news all the time, you know, and it's unbelievable, all the fakery in there. And the more you know about weather and the more you studied it, the more you know just how much BS there is. It's all pseudoscience, especially if you know about orgonomy, the true science of weather. Meteorology is an antiquated, completely outdated science of weather. It needs to be thrown out. Orgonomy is the true science of weather. Meteorology is simply the effects of orgonomy.
And the study of the effects. Orgonomy is the study of the cause.
You can keep meteorology just in terms of being able to measure rainfall amounts and you want to know the air pressure and all these different things. But to know the cause of all of that, you have to go to the energetic root, which is orgonomy. Wilhelm Reich discovered this, the true science of weather, in the 50s. And he wasn't just suppressed. I mean, he was put in jail and he died in jail at the age of 60 for his discoveries because he was using orgone energy to cure cancer and to end drought. He was using it for these things that would just change the world. And they didn't want us to know this stuff.
So much so they burned most of his books. Fortunately, not all. Some survived.
Well, the German copies survived and were translated into English. And we also have a copy of Contact with Space, his last book, when he discovered the off-world interference on Earth, something not human interfering with our atmosphere. And he discovered this through using the orgone energy. And that's how we were able to continue his discoveries. We know that something up there, it's not human. I guess that's important to bring up too, that that type of travel you're seeing in the atmosphere that leaves chemtrails, that's not a human technology. And Wilhelm Reich knew this.
So is it humans flying planes at all? I've seen also images, and these are all just what you make of them, but a video of an airplane that we would call an airplane spraying what we would call chemtrails out the back of it, and somebody zoomed in on the thing, and then all of a sudden it turns into a silver disc or three orbs, and then flies off. So
we have that.
We've seen stuff like that.
Yeah. These are, what we're seeing is most likely a holographic projection. And again, we don't have proof of what those things are. All we have proof of is what Orgonite does. And we have definitive proof of that. As for what those are, we don't have proof, but the evidence is showing that there's a holographic element that's masking those orbs you're talking about to look like a plane so we could understand it. And it's not what meets the eye.
Yeah. No. And I also like to tell people that we know at this stage more about what isn't happening than what is. Dude, there are things that we can rule out through process of elimination.
And I think there are two types of flight. I think there's the type that humans do, the kind we know about. You get on a plane, it's jet fuel, you travel in the sky. But there's another type, which is all that stuff you're seeing in the upper atmosphere, which we might not even be seeing. It might be 100% holographic projection. We don't know. But as for the lines in the sky, that is some kind of byproduct of whatever it is. And the orgonite gets rid of that byproduct, but it also eventually, when you hit critical mass like we have, gets rid of the flights themselves.
Which makes it more of an intelligent, controlled type of a thing, because it's almost like garlic to a vampire or something. You just saturate the area in something it doesn't like, and it can't terraform or exist in that area. This is
That's
such a
right.
fascinating new approach to this, and I love it, honestly. I absolutely love it. It's so empowering. It makes more sense, honestly, that they would put out psychological pictures for something up there doing something, and that this thing up there doing whatever is going to do it anyway, but it projects a holographic image because, again, we have seen these planes, air quotes, morph into other things and vice versa.
Right.
being
And I have a lot of
escorted by-
pictures of that. It's amazing. I have a whole chapter of my book on UFOs just because of the things I've seen out there.
My wife printed it, actually. It's back here. Do you see this thing right here on the back? Yeah. We
Here's
printed this bad boy. Yeah.
It's
there
called
you go.
Invisible Soldiers, Silent War, Orgone Energy and the Planetary Emergency. This covers the first 5 years of our Orgonite gifting work from 2014 to 2019. It explains in great detail what we know about the energetic war and, what we've done in the field, but we've done, of course, now another 5 years of work. So it's gotten even further from where we were at that time.
It's awesome. I mean, it's just such an interesting perspective. It's so interesting to think about, plus empowering. It's like you're just calling them, bullshit, Another component to this, I just want to ask you this, and then we're going to go into orgonite, about the barium, strontium, and aluminum. Allegedly, that is something that they're going to project Project Bluebeam onto and all of this kind of stuff. So where do you guys lie on that whole narrative with how it pertains to what's going on with your work?
Well, that narrative, I just want to say real quick,
yeah.
that narrative is too out there and too convenient to be true. And anything that the government puts out there, that's what they want people to think. That's again, to go back to what you were saying about the levels of psyops. It's not just you get past the one and then everything is all truth and you're in the clear and you don't have to use your brain anymore. It doesn't work that way. There are many, many levels of this, and that's just one of them.
You think
my book
Sergei
has
Monast was like a plant?
What's that?
Do you think Sergei Monast in the Project Bluebeam book and all that, do you think that was all sort of part of a psyop to even
Most
put
likely
the thing into the consciousness?
Most likely, yeah. That's what it feels like to me.
Feels like that was like the era of time of things being like that, right? With your Richard Doty's and things like this, your infiltration of CIAs into organizations and groups to provide misinformation just to throw people
Or the
off.
creation of groups to provide misinformation.
There
I
you
mean,
go, sure.
the geoengineering activist groups, you'll never see anything about orgone energy. You cannot understand what's going on in the atmosphere with weather or weather modification at all if you don't know orgonomy, and none of them do. So without an orgonomic background, understanding atmospheric energy, you can't understand anything going on up there. So they're not experts. They purport to be.
And they're not just disinterested in orgonomy, they are actively opposed to it.
I've had conversations with them. I've conversed with Dane Wigington, and I've met him, and he's completely opposed to it. And he was very friendly to me the first time I met him. I mean, very friendly as a guy like that can be.
It's a relative term.
Not a happy guy, but anyway, I met him at a consciousness event, and this is before Orgonite, and I was very into his work and doing whatever we could to spread the word on this, but we didn't have a solution. But yeah, he was friendly to me at that time, gave me some flyers to give out, but it was all disinfo. And then when I learned the truth and I spoke with him about it, he told me that, first off, he told us we shouldn't go to his event. We can't go to his event in Reading, which we went to, and it was August of 2015. So that's 9 years ago. We were going to go with some information on Orgonite and just teach people that there's a solution to this. And he told me on the phone, he called me because he got wind of it, that we were going to be doing this.
He literally called
he
her
called
cell
me
phone
on the phone, and he said
at
to me,
1 o'clock on a Tuesday.
It was the afternoon, actually, in the middle of because we were planning our trip. And he said to me, I can't have any discussion of this at my event. I would lose all my government and military contacts. So this is not part of that. Okay. They're not looking for a solution to this. There's a chapter of my book. My book is in two parts. The first half of it explains what this is. Orgone energy, the war in the sky, and all of this stuff. The second half is all our field work, and it's more like a story. The second half reads more like a story. But in the first half of the book, I have a chapter on the controlled opposition, and it does explain what happened there. It does explain many, many things that have happened to us over the years with regards to controlled opposition, with being in independent media ourselves, and then not being anymore, and being kind of like blacklisted almost That's why I was so amazed when you reached out for a podcast. You know, I only get a few emails for podcasts these days compared to what I used to get, you know, years ago. Once we discovered Orgonite and really, really delved into it, we were having fewer and fewer media appearances. When my book came out in 2020, nobody wanted to interview me about it. I mean, I got very few interviews, and I had supporters of our work saying, I'm promoting you to this podcast. We're going to I want to get you on this one. I'm going to tell them all about you. And they would never reach out to me for an interview. And if they did, when I would reply to them, I wouldn't hear back from them again. Because once it got to the producers, that was it. They said, no way. But see, you're not that way. So, I mean, I'm so grateful that there's still podcasters out there.
Very, very rare, though.
I think that there are out there, but how would they find out about us? You know, so the fact that you found out about us through this crazy series of events shows how hard it is to get it out there, you know?
Did you go hang out with Chris Matthew, or are you booked on his show yet?
We did a show with Chris Matthew, and it was awesome.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
Okay. Yeah, no, you guys you're out there. You were just dormant. You were doing your thing for a little while, getting all the knowledge you needed, and now it's your time to bloom, folks. Yeah. So
well, I'm hoping to get it out there to people and really change things, because I'm still getting emails from people saying we're still having chemtrails. A lot of people are telling me, I just got one from Australia. I get great emails all the time. A lot of people are telling me great things. Somebody in Australia that got Orgonite from us just followed up with me months later. You know, she says, it's just been great. You know, we're getting normal weather. We're getting rain. The sky is blue when it's not raining. It's not hazy anymore. And I'm just, you know, she's just thrilled with it. And I'm getting these kind of positive emails around the world. But when I still get one that says, hey, we're having a lot of chemtrails, I say, well, get these tower busters or make them, because we have videos on how to make them yourself, and put these by all the cell towers in your community. And it's really not that hard to do, your local area, and you are going to see a total change up there. You neutralize the grid, get rid of the stuff.
Yeah, that's what I need. I need to print a few up, because we've been, I mean, yesterday and today actually have been bad with chemtrails, and this little guy has just been pumping, I guess, but it's just been bad. Really
you need
bad.
a grid in the city.
Yeah, exactly. We need it's about out here.
It's about those towers. There are many of them, and the more you gift, the more you will see the types of energetic and atmospheric changes Sharon talks about in the book and on the blog.
Yeah. But as far as the controlled opposition, they do not want us to know that we can do this, and they would lose a lot of business. I mean, they make money off of this. It's sad, but they make money off of these programs and events and things that they do to keep people in fear.
This event 9 years ago, when we learned about it, we were talking to each other and saying, all these people they're just going to be pumped with fear for a couple of hours, and they're going to go home miserable with no solutions. Let's go up there and like hand out flyers. And that's when Dane caught wind of it and called her. First, just to finish that story up, first he asked her, please don't go to this event. But she'd explained to him that, well, don't you want a solution?
And it is open to the public.
You're so against this big problem. You know, we have a solution here, and we can evidence that it actually works. It's only a year into our field work, but we still had ample evidence. And he wouldn't hear a word of it. And then finally, he went from asking us not to come to threatening us with forced removal by the police should we choose to come.
And then we went anyway. We were threatened with forced removal by the police, and we left. But we did get out some info.
Yeah, during intermission, we kept a low profile. We didn't have signs or anything. We were at the steps of the auditorium when people were filing out during intermission. We just handed out information about Orgonite. Yep. And we managed to get out quite a few informative flyers before the organizers caught wind of what was happening and then confronted us. So we got out of there.
Yeah, I wasn't
before anything could happen.
I didn't want a big kerfuffle, but so, you know, there's been a lot of opposition to this over the years, but we're now in 2024. Through a miracle, you found out about our work, and it's totally helped you in your environment. And I'm hoping that more and more people find out about it. And through your podcast, I'm thinking a lot of people will. So this is a great way to get it out. It's really simple to improve your own energetic environment. We're talking about in your home as well. So that will be important that we talk about the Orgonite, its effect in your home on your consciousness and your health, as well as how it can be used in your neighborhood to improve the weather, because it's both. We're life force beings. The atmosphere is governed by the life force energy. So what we need to do on Earth is increase life force energy and remove deadly energy. And it's really simple.
And when we say improvements in the weather, we are talking major scale here. Like droughts, hurricanes, tornadoes can all be a thing of the past if people take this and run with it.
It sounds like there's an intelligence up there that has apprehended some human, air quotes, humans down here that built towers down here to facilitate their need to pump the energy up there. And we're just sort of caught in the middle of all of this. Is this sort of the game that's being played?
Yeah. Well, this planet has a parasitic infection. True. And Wilhelm Reich figured this out right at the very tail end there of his work. He determined that it had been going on at least 25,000 years. And we're still just kind of figuring out the nature of this infestation, but it does exist. And fortunately, we know how to defeat the enemy.
Yeah, we don't even know exactly who they are.
Yeah.
Wilhelm Reich thought of them as extraterrestrials that were influencing Earth. There's an author, Mac Tonnies, who wrote a book called The Cryptoterrestrials, which is a really amazing take on it, which is that they're not actually extraterrestrials, but they live here on Earth alongside with us. Although we don't see them, we don't know who they are, but they're here secretively.
Sort of like a they live type situation.
Yeah.
So there is something not human. I mean, and that's a really hard thing for people, is that there's other beings that aren't human. But, anybody who's listening to your podcast is going to be open to that idea. This isn't like I'm not going on CNN with this, but, that's a tough one for people. So we are at war with something that's not human, and they need us. And actually, Mac Tonnies is saying in his book that there's and this is written published in 2009. I mean, he died in 2009, and the book was published right after he died. It was written probably around 2008. So he didn't know about orgonite. But he knew about the energetic war to a degree. And he knew that there was some kind of being using frequency on us. And, that they've set this thing up like a farming operation. Wilhelm Reich said they were mining our suffering. They wanted us in a low state of suffering. And
that's that we've confirmed the same thing. And I kind of alluded to this on Chris's show, Forbidden Knowledge News. Their food, whatever this race is of parasitic beings, their food is human suffering. That's why every single thing is done, like almost in lockstep, without exception, to generate that food for them. Like there's not even one thing that they get right. And, you would think that over the course of the events, the law of averages would state that occasionally something would be done right and people would feel good or benefit from something. No, everything is always done to generate that suffering without exception. So it's the formulaic nature of it that gives it away, I think.
Yeah.
It makes complete sense. This is the Archons. We've talked about this, so much, and I've spoken recently about sort of, okay, let me ask before I set this up. Are you guys globe folks or exclusively, or do you think that this could be a flat or a realm or a simulation? What is your sort of world view possibility-wise?
And you'll get to when you get to my book, you'll see I did briefly mention this flat versus globe argument, which I don't get involved in that argument because we know so little about anything. So we really don't. I mean, I would say I can't tell you either way. How do we know this is a globe? I don't think it's flat. I don't think it is. I think that it's not a globe either. I think it's beyond that. I think that in the third dimension, it appears to us as a globe, but this is a multidimensional planet. So, this goes far beyond anything that we can see with the eye. I do consider the flat Earth versus round Earth to be a 2D versus 3D argument, still in the physical realm. So I wouldn't be able to tell you because we don't know anything. It seems that in the third dimension, as we live, it seems to be a globe, and all the orgonomic evidence says that it's a globe where weather systems travel around it. I mean, based on Wilhelm Reich's work, it looks like it's round. But I also think that is a simplistic way of looking at something that once you get past the fourth dimensional barrier into higher dimensional consciousness, it probably wouldn't look round either.
Simulation sounds about right to me.
Okay.
Like it's some kind of like we're living in a hologram, basically. I mean, the third dimension is very simplistic.
What do you?
By the way,
go ahead,
just real quick, I just want to say before I forget, we really don't like the term archons, just because arch is a prefix that means ruler, and they are not.
Archons
They are the polar opposite of rulers.
You know what? We're taking back the word elite. We're not calling them that anymore. We're calling them the derelite, right? The derelite. So we're right
heard
here
deletes.
with you.
Yeah, the deletes.
Deletes. I like that. Okay, we're writing that one down. Okay,
But the
very nice.
archons,
I like that. So what would you call them instead?
Well, Cameron Day was the first guy that explained when I was reading up on him that when they say archons, it means rulers. So I call them the ankle biters, he said. That's what he called them. I got another friend that calls them the ass corns.
we these days, especially since reading Mac Tawney's book, The Crypto Terrestrials, we've started calling them the CTs.
Yeah.
Which of course is short for crypto terrestrial.
Yeah, which would be, so this idea then would be that, yes, it wasn't always like this, and maybe some cataclysm happened here and brought about this force, or it was, do you think that this, simulation just sort of interjects something like this, sort of like, hey, you're getting bored, it's time to do something different, and they go, haha, and they toss a parasitic entity on the realm here, and it's just up to us to battle it, or?
Well, it's a mystery where they came from or why they're here. We just know that they're evil and they're here. I mean, good and evil is just built into the fabric of the dualistic world that as third dimensional beings. And I have a chapter about the dualistic world as well in my book. The book is not just about Orgonite and what it does. It explains this whole underlying energetic war. But yeah, I mean, evil is just part of God's plan. I mean, it's just the way it is. We are being tested in some way here on Earth. And we need to just persevere through it and get rid of the parasitic infection.
Yeah, because the symbiosis between humans and this parasite, it doesn't work.
And it is a symbiotic relationship. And it's done these days. It's kind of crazy what's happened. I think through Orgonite gifting, we've seen such a decrease in the CT population. They can't be here unless the energy field is to their needs, which would be deadly to us. So we're seeing less and less CT influence. People are waking up more and more. And what they've done is they've basically automated the mind control at this point. They have to mind control humanity in order for us to stay in this low state. I mean, they've done it for eons. They keep us in mental slavery. They've basically automated the process now through smartphones. So they've given everybody, and people love them. They took them. They're like, oh, this is great. It's a tracking device that also puts out a signal of mind control. And I know there's conveniences to it. You're using the internet, you're getting your work done, whatever. But at the same time, you're being hit with deadly radiation, DOR. It's the opposite of carrying Orgonite to carry a smartphone. And you're being hit with messages all the time, whether you're looking at it or not. It's putting you into a low state of consciousness because DOR is a low state of consciousness. But they've basically automated the mind control because there aren't enough of them to control billions of humans. So everybody's got this automated mind control device now. And the more we gift Orgonite, the more that's short circuiting. So I do urge people to be aware that if you're carrying a cell phone, which you are, even if it's a dumb phone, it is putting out deadly radiation.
And it's addictive too. It's highly, highly addictive.
The radiation changes your constitution.
Yeah, changes your mental pathways.
It changes everything. And you
alters
become
your
addicted.
thought forms, everything.
What about an Orgonite phone case?
Yeah, people always ask me about that. I don't want that battle going on in your hand right next to your head all the time. That's going to be an energetic battle right on your, see, when you have the phone right up against you or near you, you're in its field. So even if you have the Orgonite there, you're so close to the DOR source. Orgonite doesn't block it. So what it does is it creates a counter field of an opposing energy, which smooths it out and neutralizes it to where it's safer. But distance is your friend, and around the offending device, there's always going to be a DOR field. So even if you have the Orgonite, you've got an energetic battle going on now right in your space. If the source of DOR is far away, like your neighbor's cell phone in their house across the street, then you're good because it's far enough from you that you're not in its direct path. But within a few feet around the offending device, you still have a deadly field. So you really shouldn't use it. Yeah. I know people aren't going to like that, but my website explains how to hardwire your whole life and have all the technology that we have without the radiation.
Yeah, the phone shields to me are like, hopping on a treadmill for a few minutes after you've just eaten McDonald's.
Or eating McDonald's while you're on the treadmill.
You're right. Even worse.
So I recommend people just keep the Orgonite with you. Don't use your smartphone, at least if you can at night when you're sleeping. Turn it off. you are going to feel a push and pull. I mean, you might feel better just having the orgonite even while using the phone. I know when I'm traveling and I'm forced to use a cell phone, the orgonite helps take the edge off, but I use it as briefly as possible and then turn it off, because that DOR is still there. People want something to block it, but you can't completely block it and have the cell phone work.
Even in airplane mode, DOR is still there.
So we recommend not using it if you can, but if you have to use it, yes, the orgonite will smooth out that wave, but minimize your use, because when it's right up against you, you're getting fully bombarded with the DOR.
Wow. How does orgonite energies help with the health of everything? It's just the overall health of all it comes in contact with.
It is life. So I'm going to briefly explain what goes in the orgonite. I have a kind of a visual aid here. This is one you can see all the parts. So orgone energy is life force energy. And in this device, there's a crystal in there. It's kind of hard to see. I'm trying to do it. So that's a tourmalated quartz crystal and some shungite stones. There's also some crushed selenite in there, a copper coil, and most importantly, a lot of very, very fine brass shavings. These are extremely fine. So the way it works is that the crystals and the metals all produce orgone energy naturally. Everything on Earth is producing life force energy. It is the energy of creation. In fact, all the physical things you see are orgone energy slowed down to a vibration to where it becomes physical. So in this device, we amplify the natural orgone that's already there by putting all these things together and then using a epoxy, or this is epoxy resin, but usually we use a polyester resin. Either way, it catalyzes and squeezes upon the elements, and that activates their piezoelectric properties, which amplifies the energy. So you've got like thousands of these tiny little particles of brass, and the orgone squeezes on them, and it amplifies that energy to where it creates this increase, this wave, this major wave of orgone energy that will literally knock out the ability of a cell tower to alter the atmosphere. I mean, it neutralizes it. So
it provides a counter frequency to what the tower is putting out.
Right up against the tower, you're still in the deadly field, but even a few feet away, it's already being neutralized. And ultimately, what's so wonderful about the orgonite is it works even harder when you put it near a deadly energy source. So it wants to undo that.
To overtake it.
It wants to overtake it. So this is why I say in your own home, you should have the orgonite, but you should also reduce DOR, because you're going to be at ground zero for an energetic battle. So if you can reduce the DOR too, you're going to be in better shape. If you can't, then you just want to have a lot of orgonite to neutralize its effects, because it's going to create a field that basically flattens out.
We've been doing this work for 10 years, so take it from us. Yeah. We've been at ground zero of many, many energetic battles. I've lost track of the total number.
So what do you mean by that?
What I mean is that push and pull that she's talking about between OR and DOR, it's very jarring.
Yeah, they fight each other.
Yeah,
but the OR always wins. But
it's a fight every time.
But what I've noticed is this, and you expressed this great change that happened in your house. What I notice is this, even for people like us that had cell phones and Wi-Fi, when we first started, we had cell phones and Wi-Fi in our house. When we first made the orgonite, everything just was so peaceful, even with the DOR, because the OR overtakes it. And also it helps you to detox from your addiction to the DOR. Your body gets used to that. But over time, you're going to want to start reducing the DOR, because you're going to become more sensitive. As you clean up and become less toxic, you're going to become more sensitive. So at first, you're going to feel that euphoria of first having the orgone energy. But then if you start to feel unwell it's because your body has become so clean that the deadly radiation is affecting you worse. So that's why I say, get more orgonite if you can, but ultimately reduce your dependence on things that emit DOR. Hardwire your internet. I have instructions on my site how to do that. It's not hard. We're doing that right now.
And you can have all the same technological capabilities you did before, everything. But
you also have to get used to the idea of not being able to just look stuff up anytime when you're out there. Oh, let me look that up right now. I'll look it up when I get home on my computer. You have to just kind of get used to that and use the cell phone just as it was meant to be used. If you need a phone while you're out there, if you use it in that way consciously, you'll be fine. We use a cell phone when we're out there too. If we're traveling, I have to make a call. I'm away from the house, but I don't use it for looking things up. I don't use it for emailing. It's just a conscious use of technology, because as you get more clean energetically, you will become more sensitive and you'll feel the need to be more conscious of your use of technology.
With that, you guys traveling around a lot, you're around a lot of cell phones, in airports and things like this. So with you becoming way more sensitive, how is it whenever you get around a bombarded environment? Like if you go to somebody's Christmas party or something like this, right?
It's hard. It's hard. We live about an hour north of Los Angeles in the mountains. And when we have to go down into the city, I inexplicably get a headache every time. Almost every time. It's tough because you go from a clean energy field to literally being immersed in that DOR field. And it doesn't matter how much orgonite you have around you, because there's hundreds and hundreds of people with cell phones and, a lot of neutralized towers, granted, but it is the
distance is your friend. Yeah. Once again, if you're right up close and personal with it, it does still affect you because the energy is still there. So what we do to make it easier on ourselves is we use orgonite pendants. I'll wear orgonite, or carry it in my pocket. We have pocket stones and pendants so that surrounding myself, at least I've got that protection. I even made orgonite earrings, to have the protection right up at my head. So around myself, I'm good, but I do tend to actually stay away from people. I do tend to try to keep, social distancing. I know that's funny. I'm social distancing for radiation and, perfumes and stuff. People really like douse themselves in perfumes these days. So you become more sensitive to all that. So I stay away from people and that helps me. I would say last time you didn't say you got a headache. I didn't get a headache last time either.
Not last time, but I also carry around a pocket stone. Here's my little pocket stone I carry.
Awesome. Yeah. So you could keep yourself safe as best you can, we minimize our time out there. And it's really interesting you brought this up because I'm going up to Boise myself this time. Usually we gift together. This time I'm going up myself and I'm taking a bus to get there. And it's going to be like basically a 24-hour trip there and back. And I was thinking, how am I going to get through this? I don't take planes, by the way. Ever since we figured out what's going on up there, I don't want to go interdimensionally, and I don't want a human driving me around up there either. Flying me around up there. So I don't go on planes since 2017. I won't.
Thing, right? They just portal and interdimensional took off. Do you think
I'm not messing around? Yeah, I'm not messing around with whatever they're doing up there, but I'm taking a bus. I'm going to be out 24 hours and be surrounded by cell phones. The bus has Wi-Fi. I actually bought myself an EMF protection blanket that will wrap around my whole body. And I even got a thing for my head. It's made out of a fabric called New Daylight, which is what our bed canopy. We have an EMF canopy we sleep in. So our sleep, 8 hours every night, is completely EMF free. We don't get anything from our neighbors' houses. It's silent in there. So I bought that material to wrap around my head. And it sounds crazy, and I'm going to look like a nut job on the bus, but I'm going to
joke about it.
I'm going to get through this trip, and I'm going to be able to sleep on that bus. And I'm not going to be absorbing any of the radiation. So because I'm going to have the orgonite, but the person sitting next to me is going to have a cell phone. So it's going to neutralize it, but it's very close. I'm still getting both energies.
And the person in front of you is going to have a cell phone, and the person behind you is going to have a cell phone.
So that's the thing.
Question, though. How are you okay mentally with existing in a world that's just bombarded with all this stuff? Do you feel like if you're not wrapped up in all that, then take all those precautions as something? What it seems overwhelming. Is it overwhelming is my question.
It's not overwhelming. I mean, we went on a gifting trip, the two of us. It was a 2-week-long gifting trip in October. We gifted Denver, Albuquerque, and Tucson. I mean, these were complete grids. We exhausted ourselves. And we stayed in hotels, and we were able to, because in the room itself, you see, the cell phones are the biggest problem. There was nobody with a cell phone in our room. The nearest cell phones are in other rooms. The distance really helps. The Wi-Fi is not nearly as bad as the cell phones. So the orgonite pyramids that we take, like here, I've got a big one here. These are the types I take with me when I travel, these big guys.
Whoa, yeah.
And here, I'll hand that to you. These big pyramids here, I consider whole house protection. And with the Wi-Fi and the hotels going with those, I'm still able to sleep because we don't have the cell phones. The cell phones are by far the worst thing. So we're able to go out there. We're able to stay in hotels. Although I'm going to experiment with my EMF blanket this time and wrap myself and see if I sleep even better. But the Wi-Fi is a little more tolerable than the cell phones for sure. So I definitely recommend, if you're traveling, bring Orgonite with you. Continue to turn off your cell phone when you sleep. There's going to be people around in other rooms, but that distance really does make a difference.
It is annoying, though. I will say that to know that you're just, no matter what, you're immersed in that DOR field anytime you go into a populated area.
But one of the things that makes it better also is knowing we gifted the towers. I mean, we've gifted all the towers in the LA, in the city of LA. I mean, we basically gifted every single tower, and it's not just LA. I mean, we've done so many cities. We've done all the major cities of California. We've done Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington. We've done Las Vegas. We've done Phoenix, Tucson, Albuquerque. It goes on. I mean, Salt Lake City. I mean, there's so many.
Like a Johnny Cash song.
When we,
I know.
when we gift Orgonite in an urban area, we are literally looking on a map and driving back and forth and back and forth,
every
and
street,
up and down and up and down, and literally every single cell phone tower we see, we put Orgonite by it.
That makes it so much better in the environment. The environment is much healthier. So even though people are still bombarding themselves with DOR, the overall atmosphere is better.
This is the Achilles heel of the parasitic thing, whatever you want to call it, the CTs. And the best part is they have absolutely no defense for it.
What about all the pollution you're spitting out by driving around so much? I'm just kidding. I'm just poking.
In our little Prius.
You do not.
50 miles per gallon.
It's a joke. So, it's interesting that you're mimicking sort of the behavior of that which they're doing, right? Whatever it is, it's gridding above. So you're gridding below.
Exactly.
And they're
gridding below. They gridded the land.
Where they put the cell towers tells us where to put the organ.
We neutralize it so they can't do that up there. And it makes the town better. Like your home environment, you'll find your neighbors are nicer. People aren't arguing as much. The drivers are more considerate. You wouldn't believe the transformation in Denver. When we entered Denver, I said, watch out. This is going to be the pit of hell. It was literally like, I was like, I'll be happy if we get out of this alive. We were descending down that godforsaken mountain
I-70
into Denver, and the drivers drive like maniacs. There's no Orgonite in the place. It's got that evil airport. The whole thing is just evil. We're descending, and I'm like, this is going to be a nightmare. This is going to be hell on earth. And it was hell on earth.
Everyone's got their brights on. We're blinded.
But it's more than that. Blinded. The crime, the craziness, the place we stayed that first night, I thought we would die. The police showed up over and over again for things going on out there. There were homeless people everywhere. And it's really a sad state of affairs in Denver. So it's buzzing with DOR. There's no Orgonite. It was hell that first night. When we started gifting, within a couple of days, we noticed a huge difference. The people had started out very standoffish, unfriendly, DORized. It armors the individual. DOR is what makes people angry. It makes them cold. It makes them aloof. All of these things that are separating us from each other. But the life force energy brings us together. And after we had gifted the city for a couple of days, the people were completely different. They were smiling. They were friendly. And you know what? They even commented on the nice weather. So,
we threw ours out. It is like beautiful. What do you think about giving Orgonite to homeless people and just letting them kind of wander around with it?
They would rather have food. I've done that before. We gave food to a homeless person in Denver, actually, when we woke up on that first morning after like a night where I can't believe we survived. I can't believe the place we were staying in Aurora. I learned my lesson. We went clear to the other side of town. But yeah, you know what? I have given Orgonite to homeless people. They don't really care. Honestly, I mean, they have other concerns, but yeah, it's a nice thing to do. It is a nice thing to do. And I've done it. I gave this lady a meal and she was actually in tears. She said she hadn't eaten in 2 days and she said, God bless you. And so, Denver's got bigger problems to fry, I think, besides
like
just the energy
hat, with the thing on it, sun hat with the pyramid on it. And then they get blocked from the sun. And of course, put good energy out everywhere. And then when they go ask for help, then maybe they get a little more response because of the positive energy they're beaming around everywhere.
Well, we have done it. And I mean, it helps everybody.
Yeah.
We've noticed that gifting the towers brings about the most positive changes. So we just focus our time and energy exclusively on that. And especially now that we've gifted so many places in the West, the more new places we get, the further out we have to drive. We're now at the point where we're driving at least a third of the way across the country. Once we get out that far, we need to make the most of our time there. We're bringing hundreds of orgonites with us.
Right. For the Denver trip, we actually gifted 700 tower busters, which is kind of like, it was exhausting.
But that's between,
and it's strategic.
That's all the way to Denver, throwing along the way.
Every tower.
That's what y'all do. You throw them at every tower.
In Denver, all the way down to Albuquerque, and then in Albuquerque, and then all the way to Tucson, and in Tucson, and then.
And at this last one, as we were descending into Denver and I thought we were in for it, I just kind of prayed that we'll have some help on the next one because we're getting too far from home now. And my prayer was answered because we have a teammate up in Boise, meeting me up in Boise, who's a gifter in Canada. And she's meeting me there. So, thankfully, we can't always both leave at the same time. We have like, stuff to do here. We have business to keep our business running. And we have a small ranch. So we're always having to take care of stuff here. So he's going to be here. I'm going up there to meet with Shelly, and I'm taking a Greyhound bus up there. So I'm not going to be able to gift on the way. But when we get to Boise, when I'm in Boise, she's meeting me. We're going to be just obliterating the place. And then I'm going to take the bus back home. So it seems like now that we're getting farther and farther from home, we might need a little help. We might need to split up sometimes. Having helpers out there makes a big difference.
That's a great point you make. I mean, anybody who is curious in this, please reach out. Chembow.com. It's going to be linked down in the show description. Your, Odyssey, Rumble, BitChute, all the ways to find you guys. So if you guys are interested in this, and it sounds like something you'd like to do, if you're frequenting festivals, if you're, out and about anyhow, and you're interested, please reach out. I'm sure that they would be grateful for the help and the aligned help at that. Now, we've got so much more to talk about here, guys, but we're going to go into the afterthought here. But before we let you guys run, again, to remind everyone that all the ways to find them located down below. If you guys want to join us for that afterthought, great way to support your favorite show. And it's down in the link description down there as well. Before we let you guys run off, though, hit us with what gets you out of bed every morning. This is a wild place saturated with EMF and weird terraforming entities flying around in the sky doing weird shit. What gets you out of bed every morning, keeps you moving forward with hope?
That's so funny. What gets me out of bed every morning is my horse.
That's right, you have livestock. I get it. Yeah.
But no, I'm laughing about that because it's really hard to get out of bed in the morning. I mean, this is a very, very difficult world to live in. But what gets me out of bed in the morning is my family, my horse, my husband, the people I love. That they're the ones that keep me going. That's what we really need. We need, family and friends to help us to persevere. Being alone is hard, and we are mostly alone. I mean, together, we're alone together, but, any support you can find, and just knowing that the battle is being won, just knowing that we've had the solution for 10 years. As soon as we discovered Orgonite, my life went from negative to positive just like that. I mean, all the negativity just fades away when you know you have a solution to these problems. So yeah, the love of my family and just the desire to continue to purge the parasitic infection and heal this world.
I have a couple different reasons than you.
Please, yeah.
The alarm clock chiefly gets me out of bed. And the DORized people in our neighborhood who make a point of making their noise as early as possible in the morning, and then it's quiet the rest of the day generally.
7 a.m. is when you run that chainsaw. Absolutely.
Yeah.
7 a.m. is the noisy hour. 4 a.m. is the DOR bombarding hour. 4 a.m. is when they wake you with energy. 7 a.m. is when they wake you with sound. But I would say the last couple of days here have been insanely OR-ish. Like we were commenting, like our horse was flipping out and running around. And he does that when there's an energy change. He's actually the laziest horse on earth. He barely moves. But when there's an energy change, he'll start getting all amped up. So yeah, over the weekend, we noticed this incredibly high OR. I mean, and there's not a flight in the sky. Not a one. And there hasn't been, I mean, crisp blue.
Perfect blue sky.
They're not even up there.
The mountains are like absolutely clear, not a spot of haze anywhere. And Monday is the day when even on the highway, there's very, very little traffic. It was like, we're talking like 9 a.m, just dead silence. Just, it was for a Monday.
It was very unusual.
That's anomalous.
It's quiet to everything.
Wow.
Yeah. Actually, we're going to gift those people with the noisy dogs. See, you put the orgonite. I have to go down and do it. I said that the other day. I said I should just put a tower buster by their house. If you got a noisy neighbor, a bad neighbor, just hide a tower buster in their bushes.
Sometimes they leave.
Yeah, sometimes they move away.
Oh, that's a great idea. God.
Well, yeah. I last thing I want to say is that I know it sounds far-fetched. In late 2013 and early 2014, when we first learned about what orgonite is, and we were trying to get an answer as to what was going on with that, we thought it sounded far-fetched. We said, there's no way that this little thing can take care of all that stuff. But all you have to do is try it.
Yeah.
Try it. And when you see what it does to the enemy, you will want to just go headlong into fighting them and winning.
And might I add,
OR always beats DOR in the end.
Always. And might I add, it's cheap. Yep. It's really cheap. Anyone can do it. You don't need any money to do this.
And I do want to just also mention that we get by exclusively on the contributions of others. We don't have matrix jobs. This is our job. We took a big leap of faith doing this 9 years ago, and somehow, some way it has worked. So we are thankful to everyone who's helped us either by buying orgonite from our shop or by donating to us. That's what keeps allowing us to continue to do these massive giftings and bringing about all of these great weather changes that we're seeing.
Yeah, when I say it's cheap, it's not cheap to do it the way we do it. No. So we do appreciate the support. It's cheap if you're going to make a dozen tower busters and gift the towers in your neighborhood. You'll be astonished at what you can accomplish for, it's like literally a few dollars a tower buster, and you've taken care of so much. So, check out our tutorial videos, especially if you're on a budget and you want to make your own. Check out our tutorials. We explain exactly how to do it. But yeah, you'll be amazed at the results. And I've gotten some great emails from people recently about the results. Just another one was a lady up in Alberta, Canada, that made a batch of tower busters. She'd been studying my work and actually reading up on it and learning how it works. Made a batch of tower busters with her little daughter. And it was a great arts and craft project too. They went out and gifted. It was hazy and the sky was kind of dead. They gifted the orgonite. The next day it rained. So, and it was it's really like inspiring for for when they see it work that quick. And it does often work that quick. Sometimes it'll take a few days to get rain, and sometimes it's not the time of year for rain. But my website and blog and book all explain the sky changes you'll see. So even if it's not rain, you're going to learn how does that stuff break up? How do the clouds gather? How does the sky clear? And how do the rain clouds come in? There's a look to all of it, and it's consistent.
Just want to take a moment and thank Gabe and Sharon for coming by and just being amazing. That's a fantastic conversation and always something to think about with each episode here. And that's why we're expanding the shit out of this dude's reality right here. At least mine, for damn sure. Guys, check the show description, Chembow.com, and all the other ways there, Odyssey, Rumble, BitChute, and more will be located down in the show description, how to find them. Also, definitely check out the afterthought for this conversation. We go into the confounding of cause and effect, which is absolutely fascinating, guys. We have a wonderful rest of this conversation. You're definitely going to want to catch it. This is what afterthoughts are for this type of shit right here. So support your favorite show in the link below, and that's how you can do that. Other than that, guys, go out into this beautiful realm that we live in, and know that it's wild and know that things are crazy, but you are potentially not. So just sort of navigate it that way, Be nice to everybody that you come across while you're out there just crushing it at life in general, as well as pick up a piece of litter. You see it blown around the realm there. We might as well beautify this place while we're here. And get out of the left-hand lane if you've got somebody behind you wanting to pass automotively there. But above all and anything else, go out into this beautiful realm that we call home for now and just be good to one another. Love the shit out of you guys. Thank y'all so much for your support, your kind words, and your awesomeness. We will see you next time.